Once upon a time, in a small town nestled deep within the countryside, there lived a brother and sister named Mark and Emma. Mark, being the older sibling at 20 years old, was responsible for looking after his younger sister, Emma, who was 18. They were both excited about their parents' weekend getaway, leaving them home alone for the first time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the landscape, Mark and Emma settled into the comfort of their cozy home. The house seemed unusually quiet, amplifying the sounds of creaking floorboards and the distant howling of the wind. Nevertheless, they reassured themselves that it was just their imagination playing tricks on them. As the night deepened, a sense of unease began to settle upon the siblings. They heard faint whispers echoing through the corridors, their voices carrying an otherworldly chill. The hairs on the back of their necks stood on end as they exchanged nervous glances. Emma clutched onto her brother's arm, seeking solace and protection. Suddenly, the lights flickered, casting fleeting shadows across the room. Mark's heart raced as he rose from the couch, determined to investigate the source of the disturbance. Emma pleaded with him to stay, fearing what they might discover. Reluctantly, Mark ventured into the dimly lit hallway. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of his own footsteps echoing ominously. He cautiously checked each room, his heart pounding with every turn of the doorknob. But there was nothing out of the ordinary, no sign of intruders or mischievous spirits. As he returned to the living room, Mark's relief was short-lived. He noticed that the front door stood slightly ajar, a chilling draft whispering through the narrow opening. Panic surged through his veins. How had the door opened on its own? Who or what had entered their home? Mark rushed back to Emma, urging her to hide in a secure place while he investigated further. They had seen enough horror movies to know that curiosity could be their downfall. Emma's trembling hands clutched her phone, ready to dial for help if needed. Alone once again, Mark mustered his courage and crept towards the partially open door. With each step, the atmosphere grew heavier, the air thick with an indescribable malevolence. The darkness beyond the threshold seemed to swallow him whole. As Mark pushed the door open, he was greeted by an eerie sight. The moon's pale light illuminated a figure standing just beyond the porch, cloaked in shadows. A shiver ran down his spine as he realized it was a masked stranger, their intentions unknown. Fear coursed through Mark's veins, but he refused to let it paralyze him. He retreated back into the house and locked the door, his mind racing for a plan to protect himself and Emma. He quickly dialed the emergency hotline, relaying their desperate situation to the operator. Minutes felt like hours as Mark and Emma anxiously awaited help to arrive. Every creak and rustle outside the house amplified their fear. They huddled together, finding solace in their shared terror. Finally, the distant wailing of sirens broke the silence, drawing closer with each passing moment. Relief washed over the siblings as they realized they were no longer alone in their nightmare. The police arrived, swiftly apprehending the masked intruder, whose true intentions remained a chilling mystery. In the aftermath of that harrowing night, Mark and Emma learned the importance of vigilance and the strength that comes from facing one's fears. They no longer took their safety for granted and remained forever grateful for the presence of each other in times of darkness. And so they vowed to protect their home, cherishing the newfound sense of security that came with the knowledge that they could conquer any horror that dared to invade their sanctuary. I never liked staying home alone, especially at night. But my parents had to go out of town for a business trip, and they left me and my brother in charge of the house. They said they would be back in 2 days, and they gave us some money for food and emergencies. They also told us not to open the door for anyone, not even our friends. My brother Jake was not too worried about being home alone. He was 20 years old, and he thought he could handle anything. He said he would protect me from any intruders or ghosts that might come to our house. He also said he would order some pizza and watch some movies with me to make me feel better. I was 18 years old, but I still felt scared of the dark and the unknown. I wished my parents would come back sooner, or at least call us more often. They only called us once a day to check if we were okay. They said they were busy with their work, and they trusted us to be responsible. The first night was not too bad. Jake and I ate some pizza and watched some comedy movies on Netflix. We laughed a lot, and I forgot about my fears for a while. We went to bed around midnight, and I slept in my room while Jake slept in his room across the hall. The second night was when things got weird. It started with a knock on the door. I was in my room reading a book when I heard it. It was around 10 p.m., and I wondered who could be at the door at this hour. I got up from my bed and walked to the living room, where Jake was playing video games on his laptop. "Did you hear that?" I asked him. "Yeah, someone's at the door," he said, without looking up from his screen. "Who do you think it is?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe it's one of our friends," he said. "But Mom and Dad said not to open the door for anyone," I reminded him. He shrugged. "Maybe they just want to hang out with us. Come on, let's see who it is." He got up from the couch and walked to the door. I followed him nervously. He looked through the peephole and frowned. "What is it?" I asked. He shook his head. "I don't know. There are two men outside. They look kind of shady." "Shady? How?" I asked. "They're wearing hoodies and masks, and they have something in their hands. It looks like a crowbar and a knife." My heart skipped a beat. "What? Are you serious?" He nodded. "Yeah, look for yourself." He moved away from the peephole and let me see. I looked through it and saw what he saw. Two men in dark clothes and masks were standing outside our door. One of them had a crowbar in his hand, and the other had a knife in his hand. They looked like they were ready to break into our house. I gasped and backed away from the door. "Jake, what do we do?" I asked, panic rising in my voice. He grabbed my arm and pulled me to the kitchen. "We have to call the police," he said. He reached for his phone in his pocket, but it was not there. "Where's your phone?" I asked. He cursed. "I left it in the living room." He ran back to the living room and grabbed his phone from the table. He dialed 911 and put it on speaker. "911, what's your emergency?" a voice answered. "Hello, we need help. There are two men outside our door. They have weapons. They're trying to break into our house." Jake shouted into the phone. "Okay, calm down. What's your address?" the voice asked. Jake gave our address and waited for a response. "All right, we're sending a patrol car to your location right now. Stay on the line with me until they arrive," the voice said. "Thank you. Thank you so much," Jake said. He put the phone down on the counter and looked at me. "Don't worry, sis. The police are on their way. We'll be fine," he said. He hugged me and tried to comfort me, but we were not fine. We heard a loud bang from the door. They were trying to break it down. We heard another bang, and another one. The door was cracking under their force. They were going to get in soon. We had to hide somewhere. Jake grabbed my hand and dragged me to his room. He locked the door behind us and pushed his dresser against it. He looked around his room and found a baseball bat under his bed. He handed it to me and said, "Here, take this. It might come in handy." He took a pair of scissors from his desk and held it in his hand. He looked at me and said, "We have to be ready to fight if they get in." I nodded, but I was terrified. I held the bat in my hand and prayed that the police would come soon. We heard another bang from the door. It was louder than before. They were almost in. We heard them shout something. We could not understand what they were saying. They sounded angry and violent. We heard another bang. The door broke open. They were in. My heart thumped loudly, and Jake and I stood close, ready to defend each other. The room felt small and scary. Shadows danced around, making everything scarier. Outside, the strangers sounded mean and angry. We had no way out. Just then, we heard police sirens in the distance. It was like a song of hope. We held our breath, hoping they'd come in time. A strong voice yelled, "Police, drop your weapons and get on the ground." We felt relief as the strangers were stopped. The police were strong and brave. They made sure we were safe. After a while, things quieted down. The police had won. They caught the strangers and made sure our house was safe. We were okay. We sat on Jake's bed, tired and scared. It was a very hard night. The police said we did the right thing by calling them and finding a safe place. When our parents came back, they hugged us tight. They looked very happy and relieved. This night would always be in our memories, a reminder that even when things are really scary, we can be strong. I learned that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means standing up even when you're scared. And even after a scary night, the morning always comes, bringing a new day and a chance to feel better. Thank you for watching Whispering Tales TV. So don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join our community of fellow thrill seekers. Get ready for spine-tingling stories that will keep you up at night. Let the Whispering Tales begin.